found the hotel receipt on a Tuesday morning, wedged between the pages of Ellen's day planner like an unwelcome bookmark. It was in room 1847 of the Oceanview Grande, a premium suite for 2 nights, costing $1,700. The kicker? I didn't spend a single dime of that money. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. At the time, Ellen, my wife of 10 years, was in the shower. I could hear her humming something tunelessly, something unfamiliar, something I didn't recognize. The sound was an odd echo in the quiet of the house, like a ghost I hadn't invited. It drifted from the bathroom and filled the air around me, mixing with the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of our old wooden floors. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the receipt in my hands, watching the minutes slip away, the black ink on the paper growing sharper with every second. My coffee was growing cold, untouched, as my mind spun with thoughts I didn't want to face. The funny thing about betrayal is that when it's right in front of you, everything else seems so normal, so terribly ordinary. The same granite countertops we'd chosen together when we moved into this house. The same expensive espresso machine Ellen insisted we needed because she couldn't live without it, even though she'd barely used it in months. The same framed photo of our wedding day on the wall, where we both looked foolishly happy, so full of hope, so sure of the future. It didn't feel like a monumental moment. I didn't throw things, I didn't shout. Instead, I sat quietly, almost frozen, as I ran my thumb across the receipt. I took a photo of it with my phone, proof, a piece of evidence that I didn't know what I was going to do with just yet. Then I put it back, exactly where I found it, between the pages of her planner as if nothing had changed. And then, as if nothing had happened at all, I got up, grabbed my jacket, and went to work. It's a strange thing, really, how betrayal can sneak up on you, how you can be blindsided by something that had been there the entire time. But I didn't let anger rule me. I was calm, strategic. That was the difference between me and Ellen. I wasn't going to act on impulse. I wasn't going to confront her right away. Instead, I was going to make a plan, take my time, and figure out exactly how to respond. Anger, I knew, was loud. It made noise. But strategy? Strategy was silent. It was precise. At work, in the tech company where I spent most of my days pushing code and pretending to care about things like enterprise software that no one actually understood, I couldn't focus. My mind wasn't on the project I was supposed to be working on. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I replayed every moment from the past 6 months, trying to make sense of the puzzle pieces that had never quite fit. The late meetings, the random late nights at the office, the new perfume that she'd started wearing, the one she claimed she bought on a whim, but that I knew damn well didn't smell like something she'd just picked out, and the gym. She started going to the gym at odd hours, in the mornings, sometimes in the evenings. I should have paid attention, should have asked more questions, but I had been an idiot. A trusting fool who believed her when she said she was working late or going to book club. I was so blind. By lunchtime, I had already hacked into her email. Don't be impressed. It was easy. Ellen, for all her pretensions, had the worst password security imaginable. Our wedding anniversary, plus her mother's maiden name. It took me less than a minute to get access. And once I was in, the emails were a treasure trove of deception. Emails to someone named David. A lot of them. They were planning trips together, discussing hotels. She was talking about me in a way that made me feel like I was an inconvenience in my own life, a piece of furniture they had to work around. One email stood out, though. "Mark's working late Thursday," it read. "We can meet at the usual place." The usual place? They had a usual place? I closed my laptop, a wave of nausea rising in my stomach. I stared blankly at the cubicle wall in front of me. A motivational poster hung there, asking if I was giving it my all today. I almost laughed out loud at the irony. That evening, Ellen made chicken parmesan for dinner, just like she always did. She poured a glass of wine and asked about my day. I asked about hers. We did what we always did. Pretended everything was fine, as if nothing was wrong. It was all so painfully normal. "How's the Richardson project?" she asked, her eyes bright as she stirred the sauce. She always had a way of making even the most mundane things sound important. "Tedious," I said, my voice flat. "How's networking going?" I couldn't help myself. The word networking had taken on a new meaning for me now. Ellen had been attending these networking events for the past 6 months. Professional development, she called it. I knew better now. I knew what she was really developing. "Good," she said, not looking at me. She poured herself more wine. "Making good connections." Connections? Yeah, I was sure David was a good connection. I wanted to ask her about it, to confront her, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I just smiled and ate my chicken, the taste bitter in my mouth. Revenge isn't about the first punch, it's about the last one. Over the next week, I became a different person. Outwardly, I was still the same Mark Atwood who went to work every day, who came home every night and watched television with his wife. But inside, I was a man on a mission. I was documenting everything, every text, every detail, every moment that I could use against her, against David. I installed tracking software on Ellen's phone. Yeah, it was a legal gray area, maybe even illegal. Did I care? Not at all. Not at that point. I needed to know everything. I learned David's full name, David Wilkins. He was her high school boyfriend. They'd reconnected at Ellen's college reunion last year. He lived in a town 2 over. He worked in sales. He drove a Lexus he probably couldn't afford. His social media was full of gym selfies and overly inspirational quotes. He looked like he thought he was something he wasn't, and he was living his best life with my wife. The tracking software was revealing more than I ever expected. Every Thursday evening, without fail, Ellen would go to David's house. She told me she was going to book club. I found myself wondering what kind of books they were reading. Probably something about betrayal and lies, given the theme of their relationship. But the real bombshell came when I found the flight booking. Cabo San Lucas. Next month. 5 days. Ellen and David. Seats 12A and 12B, departing Friday morning. And she'd booked it using our joint credit card. She'd spent $3,000 of our hard-earned money to go screw her high school boyfriend on a beach. That was the moment. That was when the hurt stopped. That was when the coldness settled in. The Friday morning they were supposed to leave, I called in sick. Ellen thought I had food poisoning. The night before, I'd put on a convincing performance, claiming my stomach was messed up. "Are you sure you'll be okay?" she'd asked, concern painting her face. Her voice was soft, almost too soft, like she really believed I was sick and cared deeply. "I'll survive," I said. I tried to sound convincing. "You have fun at your conference." Her conference, right, in Cabo, with David from high school. She left for the airport in an Uber. I kept my distance, following her the whole way. She had to take an Uber. Her car would have raised questions. Of 5 days away, leaving her car at home could have led to too many questions. I stayed a few paces behind, careful not to be seen. Watching her, I noticed the way she held herself. She looked lighter, freer than she had in weeks, maybe months. It was like she was looking forward to something, someone. When we reached the departures area, I saw David. He was there, waiting for her. They greeted each other like old lovers, not a hint of hesitation. He kissed her like he owned her, like he had every right to. And she kissed him back, with a kind of eagerness, like she was right where she wanted to be, like she wanted to be owned. I didn't confront them, not yet. I stayed in the shadows, camera ready, snapping photos of everything. Her smile, his hand on her back, the way she leaned into him. It was all there, proof of everything. I had what I needed. Then I turned on my heels and walked away, going back to my car, my mind racing, cold as stone. I didn't go straight home. I needed to think, needed to strategize. The next steps had to be careful, calm, methodical. So I went back to the house, sat in the car for a moment, then went inside. The quiet hit me like a ton of bricks. First thing, I called our bank. I reported suspicious activity on our joint account. I claimed I thought Ellen's credit card had been stolen. They were helpful, of course. Too helpful, in fact. They froze the account immediately, pending an investigation. Ellen's cards would be declined by evening. I imagined her trying to buy something and being turned away, humiliated at the resort, unable to get anything without David's intervention. It made me smile just thinking about it. Then I contacted a divorce attorney. I wasn't filing for divorce just yet, but I needed to know my options. I needed to know how far I could go legally. The lawyer was a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Patricia. She listened to my story without judgment, her voice calm, measured. "Document everything," she said. "Don't do anything illegal. Don't do anything violent. Just document." I nodded, absorbing the advice. But then I had to ask the burning question. "What about financially?" I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline buzzing in my veins. "What can I do about the money? About her spending?" Patricia didn't hesitate. "You're entitled to protect marital assets," she said. "If you suspect your spouse is dissipating funds for an affair, you can take reasonable steps to protect yourself. You can freeze accounts, move money, take whatever action is necessary to prevent her from using the money for something that doesn't benefit the marriage." I didn't waste time. I took those reasonable steps. I moved $73,000 from our joint savings account into a new account that was only in my name. It was money we'd saved for years. Money Ellen had been spending on hotels and trips, on things I didn't know about, on things I never would have approved of. By the time Ellen and David landed in Cabo, they were cut off from all access to funds. They would have no way to pay for anything. I imagined the conversation they had at the resort when their cards were declined. David probably tried to pay with his own card, only to find it wasn't enough to cover their expenses. I imagined the look on his face as he realized he'd have to foot the bill for both of them. It kept me warm for days. The thought of it, the image of them fumbling around, desperate to figure out what to do next. It was everything. Ellen called me that night. She was furious, her voice shaking with anger. I let it go straight to voicemail. Then I listened to her scream about the bank, about how I'd frozen the accounts, about how could I do this to her. An hour later, I called her back. I sounded calm, concerned. "Ellen, what's wrong? I can barely understand you." "The accounts are frozen, Mark. All our cards are declining." She sounded frantic. "What? That's impossible. Let me call the bank." I called the bank on speakerphone, just loud enough for her to hear. I played the part of the confused husband perfectly. "Sir, you called yesterday to report suspicious activity on your account," the representative said, sounding far too professional for this kind of situation. "I did?" I let confusion and regret seep into my voice. "I was so sick yesterday, I barely remember." "Oh God, Ellen, I'm so sorry. I must have been really out of it." I let my voice crack just a little. Ellen's anger faded into frustration. She believed me, of course she did. Why wouldn't she? She thought I was the loyal, trusting husband who could never possibly sabotage her trip. I was the one who loved her, after all. "I'll fix it," I promised. "Give me until tomorrow morning. I'll sort everything out." I didn't sort anything out. I let her twist in the wind for the entire trip. She had to borrow money from David. I knew because I had hacked his email, too. "This is ridiculous," David wrote to a friend. "Her husband is either completely incompetent or deliberately messing with us." David was a smart guy for the most part. Took him 4 days to figure it out, though. 4 long days. When Ellen came back, she was tanned and angry. She walked into the house with a kind of energy I hadn't seen in her before. It wasn't the joy of vacation, but the frustration of someone who'd just been made to feel powerless. I was waiting for her, calm and composed. I greeted her with a smile, showing her all the bank paperwork, pretending to be apologetic. I even apologized for my food poisoning confusion. "It's okay," she said finally, exhausted. "These things happen." "How was your conference?" I asked, keeping my voice light. Something flickered in her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe? Fear? It was fleeting, but it was there. "Fine," she said quickly. "Productive." That night she went to shower, and as soon as she was gone, I grabbed her phone. Messages between her and David were still coming in. They were panicked, frantic. They thought I was on to them. They thought I might know something. "We need to be more careful," David wrote. "He doesn't know anything," Ellen replied. "He's too trusting." Too trusting. Right. I put her phone back, then smiled to myself. It started slowly at first. Subtle little things I planted around the house, clues I dropped like breadcrumbs. They weren't obvious, not at all. Just enough to make Ellen uneasy, to stir the paranoia I knew was bubbling beneath the surface. I'd mentioned David's neighborhood, for example, in casual conversation. "Drove through Riverside the other day. Nice area. You know anyone who lives there?" Ellen would go pale in an instant. Her eyes would dart to the side, her hands momentarily freezing in whatever they were doing. "No. Why?" she'd reply a little too quickly. "Just curious. Saw some interesting houses." She wouldn't meet my eyes after that. I could practically see the wheels turning in her head, racing to explain why I was asking questions she never thought I'd ask. The little cracks in her carefully constructed story were starting to show. Another time, I'd ask about her old high school friends. "Whatever happened to that guy you dated? Daniel? Derek?" "David," she'd correct automatically, a slip she couldn't hide. Then she'd catch herself and look away, pretending like it never happened. "I don't know. Haven't talked to him in years." Lies piled on top of lies. Each one as effortless as the last, but I could hear the tension in her voice, see it in the way she couldn't keep her gaze steady. She was unraveling, piece by piece. Meanwhile, I was playing the long game. I hired a private investigator, not because I needed more proof. I had all the proof I needed. But Patricia, the lawyer, had advised me that the more evidence I had, the stronger my case would be, and I wasn't about to do anything half-heartedly. The investigator's name was Frank, and he looked exactly like the kind of guy you'd expect. tired eyes, a cheap suit that probably hadn't seen a dry cleaner in years, a camera with a lens that could spot a lie from 3 blocks away. Frank followed Ellen and David for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of observing their every move, capturing every moment on film. He got photos of them at restaurants, at David's house, at another hotel because apparently once wasn't enough for them. "Your wife isn't very careful," Frank said when he handed me the thick folder of evidence. His voice was flat, like he'd seen this all before, like he was just doing his job. "She thinks I'm stupid," I replied, taking the folder from him. I didn't need to look at the photos yet. I wasn't ready. I needed to save them for the right moment. Frank shrugged. Most cheaters do. I paid him in cash, counting out the bills slowly, feeling each one leave my hand with a sense of finality. I didn't look at the folder immediately. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I was giving myself time to digest it, to figure out exactly how I was going to use it. Maybe I was savoring the power it gave me, the knowledge that I held their lies in my hands. That moment came sooner than I expected. Ellen, as though nothing had changed, announced she was going to another conference. This time it was in San Diego. 2 nights, she said, but this one was really important for my career. "Of course," I said, not a hint of suspicion in my voice. "You should go." She looked at me like I'd just grown a second head. There was a flicker of something on her face. Surprise, maybe even disappointment. Did she want me to fight it? Did she want me to argue, to accuse her, to give her an excuse to play the victim? Instead, I helped her pack. I asked about her itinerary, feigning interest in the important details of her trip. I wished her a safe flight, and then I did something I knew would throw her completely off. I followed her. I didn't know where exactly she was going, but I knew she wasn't going to San Diego. She wasn't going to any conference. She was going to David's house. Frank had already done his homework. David was divorced, had 2 kids who were with his ex-wife for the weekend. He complained about child support payments all the time, but he had no problem with taking Ellen to his place for a romantic getaway. I parked down the street from David's house, out of sight. I watched Ellen get out of the car and walk up to the front door like she belonged there, like she had every right in the world to be there. It made me sick to my stomach, but it also made something snap inside me. I wasn't just watching anymore. I wasn't playing the role of the concerned husband who was just curious or concerned. That was it. The plan was no longer something I needed to just execute. The waiting was over. The mask was off. I stopped planning. I started acting. David's Lexus sat in the driveway like a monument to mediocrity. Shiny black paint, vanity plates that read "Closer," because he worked in sales and thought he was clever. I walked up to it at 2 a.m, wearing gloves and carrying a small bag of tools. The security camera at David's front door was a cheap model, positioned wrong. I'd checked earlier. It missed half the driveway. I didn't key the car. Too obvious. Too juvenile. Instead, I unscrewed the valve stems on all 4 tires. Slow leaks. They'd be flat by morning, but look like natural failure. Then I spray-painted "Cheater" across the windshield in neat block letters. Not vandalism you'd report. Just vandalism that made a point. I was home by 3. Ellen texted me at 8 saying she'd made it to San Diego safely. I texted back a heart emoji. At 9, David discovered his car. I knew because he called Ellen in a panic. I knew because I was listening to the call through the spyware on Ellen's phone. "Someone messed up my car," David said. "Wrote cheater on the windshield." "What?" Ellen's voice went shrill. "Who would do that?" "I don't know. Maybe my ex? She's been crazy lately." They talked themselves into believing it was David's ex-wife. People see what they want to see. Ellen came home that Sunday night agitated. She kept checking her phone, jumping at sounds. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine," she snapped, then softer. "Sorry. Just stressed from the conference." "Want to talk about it?" "No." That week, I escalated. I created anonymous social media accounts and started posting about David. Nothing defamatory, just facts. David Wilkins of Riverside sure spends a lot of time at hotels with women who aren't his ex-wife. With photos, always with photos. His friends started asking questions, his colleagues noticed, someone showed his boss. David's carefully constructed image started cracking. Ellen noticed too. She asked David what was happening. He blamed his ex-wife again. They were both stupid enough to believe it. I watched it all unfold from my quiet suburban house, drinking coffee, writing code, playing the oblivious husband. At night, Ellen would lie next to me, and I'd wonder if she felt guilty, if she thought about what she was destroying. Then I'd remember the emails, the lies, the casual way she'd spent our money on another man, and I'd stop caring about her guilt. Frank called me one Tuesday morning. "They're planning another trip," he said. Vegas this time, next weekend. Let them go, I said. You sure? I'm sure. I had other plans for Vegas. I didn't go to Vegas. I sent the photos instead. To David's workplace, to his ex-wife's lawyer, to Ellen's boss, to both their families. Everything Frank had documented. Everything I'd collected. 6 months of lies in a neat digital package. By Friday evening, David's life was imploding. His company launched an investigation into his conduct. His ex-wife's lawyer filed for increased child support based on his hotel expenditures. His own parents called him in shock. Ellen's boss called her directly. We need to discuss your expense reports, he said. Ellen had been charging personal meals with David as business expenses. Small amounts, nothing massive, but enough to violate company policy. They weren't even in Vegas when everything exploded. They'd just landed, checked into their hotel when the calls started coming. David first, then Ellen. Their phones lit up like Christmas trees of consequences. Ellen called me, hysterical. Mark, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. What happened? I asked, concern dripping from every word. I can't explain over the phone. I need to come home. Of course. Are you okay? Are you safe? The irony of asking if she was safe from the fire I'd started wasn't lost on me. She came home Saturday afternoon, no tan this time, no relaxed vacation glow, just pale skin and terrified eyes. Someone sent photos, she said, to my work, to our families. Photos of what? She couldn't say it. She just started crying. I let her cry. Then I asked the question I already knew the answer to. Ellen, are you having an affair? The word hung in the air between us like poison. Mark, Are you? Yes, she whispered. Finally, the truth. With who? David. David Wilkins, from high school. I nodded slowly like I was processing information I hadn't known for months. How long? A year. Almost a year. Do you love him? She didn't answer, which was an answer itself. I stood up. Ellen reached for me. I stepped back. Don't, I said quietly. Don't touch me. Mark, please, we can fix this. No, we can't. I walked to our bedroom and pulled out 2 suitcases. I'd already packed my essentials weeks ago. Clothes, documents, things that mattered. I'd been living ready to leave since I found that first receipt. What are you doing? Ellen asked from the doorway. What does it look like? You're leaving. I turned to face her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married a decade ago. The woman who'd promised to be faithful, who'd promised to honor me, who'd broken every promise she'd ever made. No, Ellen, you're leaving. This is my house. My grandfather left it to me. You have until Monday to get your stuff out. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I can. Call Patricia Jennings if you don't believe me. She's my attorney. She'll explain your legal options, which are basically zero. Ellen's face went from shocked to angry. You planned this. You knew. I knew, I confirmed. I've known for months. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted to watch you lie. I wanted to watch you pretend. I wanted to document every dishonest word that came out of your mouth. I picked up my suitcases. Ellen blocked the door. Move, I said. We need to talk about this. Move, Ellen. Something in my voice made her step aside. Maybe she finally heard the anger I'd been hiding for months. Maybe she finally understood that the trusting husband she'd been lying to was gone. I walked out to my car. Ellen followed, still talking, still trying to explain, justify, beg. I put my suitcases in the trunk and turned to face her one last time. You spent our money on him, I said calmly. You used our bed, our home, our life as cover for your affair. You lied to me every single day for a year. So no, we're not talking about this. We're not fixing this. We're done. What about David? She asked, and I almost laughed. What about him? Someone ruined his life, his job, his reputation. That was me, I said. I ruined his life, just like he tried to ruin mine. Ellen's eyes went wide. You sent those photos? Every single one. I hope he enjoyed Vegas. I hope it was worth it. I got in my car. Ellen stood in the driveway, crying, reaching out like she could stop me with gestures alone. I drove to a hotel, a nice one, not the Oceanview Grande, somewhere new, somewhere that wasn't infected with her lies. That night, I opened a bottle of expensive scotch and toasted to my freedom, to my revenge, to the beautiful, calculated destruction of 2 people who thought they could betray me without consequences. Frank called the next morning. Saw the news, he said. David lost his job. Good. His ex-wife's getting full custody. Better. You did a thorough job, Mark. I learned from the best. The divorce took 6 months. Ellen tried to fight for half of everything. Patricia destroyed her in court. The evidence was overwhelming. The adultery was proven. Ellen walked away with almost nothing. David tried to contact me once, an angry email about how I'd destroyed his life. I replied with 3 words, "You started it." 3 months after the divorce was finalized, my mother called. "We're having a family dinner," she said. "Everyone will be there." "Including Ellen?" I asked. "Your aunts invited her," Mom said apologetically. "They don't understand." "It's fine," I said. "I'll come." I hadn't seen Ellen since the final court date. She'd moved back in with her parents, lost her job after the expense report investigation, lost David when he blamed her for everything going wrong. She'd lost everything, really, which was exactly what I'd planned. The family dinner was at my aunt's house, big dining room, long table, everyone dressed up and pretending nothing was wrong. Ellen arrived late. She looked tired, older. The affair had aged her 10 years. She took the seat directly across from me. My aunts fussed over her, playing peacemaker, trying to force reconciliation through proximity. "Maybe you two can talk," Aunt Carol said hopefully. "We have nothing to talk about," I said pleasantly, reaching for the bread. Dinner was awkward. People made small talk, asked about work, avoided mentioning divorce or affairs or destroyed lives. Then Ellen spoke. "Mark, can we talk? Privately? No? Please, just for a minute. Anything you want to say, you can say here, in front of everyone." She glanced around the table. Everyone was watching now, forks suspended, eyes curious. "I'm sorry," Ellen said. "For everything. I made a mistake." "A mistake is forgetting milk at the store," I interrupted. "You had a year-long affair. You spent our money on another man. You lied to my face every single day. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." I was confused. "You were selfish." Aunt Carol tried to intervene. "Mark, maybe we should—" "No," I said firmly. She wanted to talk. Let her talk. Ellen's eyes filled with tears, the same tears she'd used to manipulate me for years. They didn't work anymore. "I want you to know I'm sorry," she said, "and I hope someday you can forgive me." I set down my fork, looked at her directly. "Ellen, I will never forgive you, not because I'm angry, but because you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference." "That's not fair." "Fair?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "You want to talk about fair? You want to talk about the year I spent not knowing why my wife was suddenly so distant? The nights I worried something was wrong with me? The way you made me feel crazy for questioning you?" The table was silent. Everyone stared. "I gave you a decade of loyalty," I continued. "I gave you trust, honesty, faithfulness, and you traded all of it for a brief fling with your high school boyfriend. So no, I don't forgive you. I don't even think about you anymore, except when I have to sign divorce papers." Ellen stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back. "You destroyed my life," she said, voice shaking. "No, Ellen, you did that yourself. I just made sure everyone knew about it." She grabbed her purse and left. The front door slammed behind her. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then my mother sighed. "Well, that could have gone better." I picked up my fork and resumed eating. "Actually, Mom, I think it went perfectly." Epilogue. The end. 6 months later, I was doing fine. Better than fine. I'd sold the house, moved downtown, started dating again. Nothing serious. Just enjoying life without lies. Frank called occasionally to check in. Patricia sent me referrals for her business. David moved to another state, running from his reputation. Ellen sent me an email one night. Subject line: "Please read." I deleted it without opening it. Some stories don't need closure. Some wounds don't need bandaging. Sometimes the best ending is just walking away and letting karma finish what you started. I'd gotten my revenge. Not through violence, not through anything illegal, just through truth. Through exposing what she'd hidden, through making sure everyone knew exactly who Ellen was and what she'd done. The funny thing about betrayal is it teaches you who people really are. Ellen taught me she was capable of lying to someone she claimed to love. David taught me he was capable of destroying a marriage without remorse. But I taught them something too. I taught them that the quiet guy who trusts his wife isn't necessarily stupid. Sometimes he's just planning. Sometimes he's documenting. Sometimes he's waiting for exactly the right moment to make sure you lose everything you took for granted. I slept well at night now. No more wondering. No more worrying. No more lying next to someone who didn't respect me enough to tell the truth. Some people say revenge is hollow, that it doesn't actually make you feel better. Those people have never carefully, methodically destroyed the lives of two people who tried to destroy yours. I felt great.